Landscape photography can be an extremely frustrating game at times. I've been out on many shoots lately and I've not had a great deal of luck, despite getting the odd bit of epic drone footage and some nice sheep selfies. Yep, here's the rain. In this video, I'm back out trying again, chasing some golden light on the Leighton Fells and hoping to get a couple of decent photographs of the heather that is starting to come into bloom right now. Let's see if I have any better luck. Okay, so tonight's walk, it's a bit of a recce, this one. My interest in this location was pricked quite a while ago actually, by a lovely fella, a local guy called Andrew Lockin, who's got an absolutely fantastic website. Go and check it out. It's called Andrew's Walks, and if you're a photographer coming to the Lake District and you're looking for an interesting walk to go and photograph that's maybe off the beaten track, his website's a fantastic resource, and it was his pictures from this area that, as I say, kind of pricked me interest into going and having a look. So tonight I'm going to have a little look, bit of a recce in preparation for perhaps coming back here when the conditions are ideal. Now, I'm saying that it's not too bad at the minute. It's pretty warm, a bit of high cloud overhead. I'm hoping it sticks about, because if it does, we might get a really good sunset. But as I said, the main aim tonight really is just to have a bit of a recce and get a lie of the land for future visits. So, right, I'm going to get cracking and get started with this hike. Okay, I'll just pause for a minute here while there's a nice breeze. Yeah, I'd have been up this track a lot quicker if I hadn't took a 20-minute detour through the bloody rainforest. Lost my direction a little bit there, I don't know how, but I did, and I had to go all the way back to start. So yeah, anyway, we've done most of the slog up here. Lovely night, and I think looking at this cloud, we might be in business. I mean, you don't want to speak too soon, but it's looking pretty good. I'm fully sprayed with the smidge. Is it wrong that it smells nice? It smells really nice, actually. Although, when you clamber through the rainforest for 20 minutes out of your way, you end up sweating buckets. And the only slight problem with this smidge spray is now that I'm sweating, a little bit of it is running down into my mouth, which isn't the most pleasant thing. But anyway, I've just got a little bit to go. I'll just point you in the direction where we're going. Yeah, now that we're up on the lower slopes, there's a fair bit of heather up here, and quite a bit of it's already quite purple. So yeah, it's looking pretty good. Right, now we've made it up here, 20 minutes later than I'd planned, but yeah, not a bad walk up here anyway. I've been across the neighbouring hilltops around here, but not this particular spot. Now that I'm up here, beautiful view as I'd imagined, but I think it's going to be a little tricky, shall we say? Yeah, a little tricky, because the problem I've got is, as I'm looking out across this stunning vista, to the naked eye it's a beautiful view, but at the minute with the camera it's not going to make much of a photograph at all, because it is so hazy down into the valley here that I'm almost thinking this is potentially the start of an inversion, which will be lovely in the morning, and I might have to drag myself out to try and catch it. But at the moment, it's almost completely obscuring the view of the fells, which is what I've come up here to photograph. As I'm looking out across the Irish Sea, there's a massive bank of low cloud on the horizon as well. You can just see the sun catching my face a little bit here, so sun's still relatively high in the sky. There's another hour or so till sunset, so we'll see how it goes. But as it stands at the minute, it's not looking too promising. But I'm going to spend this next half hour or so just scouting around here and trying to find a composition in case those conditions improve. All right, so I've had a bit of a scout around, and I'm not that impressed, to be honest. I think this place is going to fall into the category of being a brilliant view, but not a great photograph, and I'll tell you why. And I don't want to sound negative, but you've got to be kind of critical about these things in terms of whether images work or not. As it stands here, I don't think the conditions tonight are that great anyway, but compositionally, I think this location would be a little bit of a struggle, certainly in terms of shooting wide angle. Longer lens stuff, yes, you can pick out lots of shots across the distant fells if you've got the right conditions, but as I say, tonight, because it's very hazy, that's not really on the cards. The second big flaw here, which would always be an issue shooting here anyway, is the mid-ground area. So at this time of the year in the summer, obviously everything's very green, and at the minute it's just a massive big expanse of green towards Derwent Water and the town of Keswick. Now if you came here in autumn and you had a bit more autumn colour on the fields and the trees, then that might break up some of that, but at this time of the year, not working so well for me. Now I did mention there might be an inversion tomorrow. If you had an inversion here, and that's pie in the sky thinking, let's be honest, because you're not going to get inversions every day, but if you had an inversion from this point, that would help to give this mid-ground a bit of interest, and it would help to join the foreground and the background together. But as it stands tonight, don't think it's going to work. Now the shot I've gone for, I'm not in love with by any stretch, but we're here, so we may as well take a photograph. We do have some lovely side light off to my right setting over the Irish Sea, and I reckon I've got about another 10 minutes before this sun's basically covered up by that cloud bank. So what I've been doing is I've been taking a couple of shots here, lovely rocky foreground being sort of side lit, and then we've got the view over to the town in the distance, but it's a bit hazy, so I might be able to do something with it in post. But as I said earlier, this is very much a recce for future visits. I will come back here because I do think there's different opportunities to shoot here. I think under certain conditions, i.e. an inversion or some really changeable weather sweeping across the valley here, I think with a long lens this is a really great viewpoint, but from a wide angle perspective I think it's a bit of a tricky one. So I'm going to take a couple of shots here as this light's sort of dipping, and I think what we'll do, because this has been a little bit of a write-off this session, I'll join you in part 2 where hopefully I'll get some better conditions. So anyway, here's the shot on the screen, let me know what you think. Okay, let's try this again. Now, hopefully this evening I've got some slightly better conditions. It's certainly a lot less hazy anyway. Now you can tell from the growth in facial hair and the change of clothes that we're slightly further on in August now from the last shoot. But I've come back to a place that I shot quite a few years ago on the channel, but haven't for quite a while, as I say. But I wanted to come back to a place to shoot the heather again. And we're coming into about peak colour now. I would say probably another week and the heather will be at its peak, but it should be pretty good now. So I'm hoping we can get some decent stuff tonight. Again, lots of high cloud, so fingers crossed. Okay, so we've made it up here, and what a gorgeous view it is. Every time I come up here, I'm always taken aback at just how good the view is. Despite it being a relatively short walk, it's only about 350 metres up here, but you've got gorgeous views looking across to Skidder and Keswick, and then off to my left there, Capbells and Derwent Water. Just a lovely evening. Now, there's always a but in landscape photography. And unfortunately, the high cloud that was absolutely abundant when I got here has started to clear, which is a bit of a shame. But I do have about half an hour till sunset, and I'm hoping that a bit more is going to drift in and just help me a little bit with the sky, because the conditions are very similar to what I had last time I filmed here on this channel, which would be, it's got to be about 4 years ago, I would say. But now I'm not going to go on and on about the process here. I just want this to be a relatively quick shoot. The one thing I'm looking for here is just a nice simple shot of the heather. Having been up here countless times, I know it well anyway, and it's not full of abundant, intricate foregrounds, and especially with heather as well, you really don't want to overcomplicate it. You want the heather to be kind of the star of the show in the shot, really. You don't want it to be some random rock or a twig or something like that. So I'm just looking for a nice, wide, balanced, expansive shot. So I'm going to spend the next sort of 20 minutes or so looking for one of those. Now, the problem I've got at the minute is I'm getting eaten alive. Despite putting loads of the smidge spray on, I'm still getting eaten. So I'm going to have to spray a bit more and pray a little bit, because once I go into that heather down there, it's going to get a lot worse, basically. So wish me luck. All right, so this shot, now I don't know if I was saying before about not wanting to sort of labour the point with this, because it is a relatively simple shot. And as I was saying, I just want a nice expansive shot of the heather here looking towards the distant view. Partly because if I can get a reasonable one of it, I'd also like to be able to sell it in the gallery. So there's a couple of things that I'm having to do here. Firstly, I'm trying my best to try and get a shot that crops to a 16:9 aspect, because that's the kind of print aspect that I'd like in the gallery ideally. But secondly, from a compositional standpoint, even though it's a relatively simple shot, there are a couple of things that I just need to sort of clean up here. In front of me here, there's a series of saplings and a couple of little rowan trees, which, you know, if I'm honest, they make the foreground area a little untidy. But, you know, as with most things in landscape photography, there's usually a compromise, and that's kind of the compromise here. To the left-hand side on Derwent Water, in the sort of middle left of the frame, you've got a series of islands. And one thing I'm making sure here when I'm just looking at the left-hand side of the frame is making sure that those islands aren't touching the frame edge on the left. So it's just been a case of just orientating the camera correctly there, so they've got a nice bit of space. The sun's setting off to my left-hand side here about 10 o'clock, and I do have a couple of issues with flare, so I've just been taking a couple of frames also with my thumb over the sun. So if I have to blend out some of the flare on the lens here in post, I can do that. But other than that, there's not a huge amount to this shot. Now, as I speak, there is a bit of cloud drifting over. Now, we've kind of lost the sort of golden light on the heather here. Now, I have taken a shot of that, but what we are hoping to get in the next sort of 20 minutes is a bit of cloud drifting over, and we might get a nice colourful sunset. It's not often to get to photograph a nice colourful sunset, so it'll be a nice change. But anyway, whatever I produce here, I'll put on the screen here. These couple of shoots have been a bit tricky. Such is life in landscape photography. Most of the time you'll fail but occasionally you succeed, so that's what keeps you coming back anyway. So here's the pictures on the screen. Let me know what you think, and take care, and I'll see you on the next one.